So the first thing you ever know about live streaming is you gotta wait for the first 30 seconds to make sure that it like saves it and
Oh,
everything.
sure. Isn't that crazy? That, like, anybody with a phone can just, like, live stream to anyone.
Yeah, it's really our world today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good morning, boys and girls, friends, lovers, children of all ages. We are down here on the 16th Street Mall, and I am with
JT Wright.
JT. He's going to do an interview today. Um, Introduced himself as a student from UC.
UC Denver.
UC Denver. I always get them mixed up
Yeah,
in my head.
yeah.
UC Denver. And so while you watch whatever you see, we're just going to let you listen in.
Yeah. So I guess really the main goal of this is that here you've been like watching all of this unfold from a very interesting angle as someone who's willing to talk to anyone and really like take advantage of that. And I kind of just wanted to hear, I guess, really first, what made you want to take that position? Like, where did this come from?
The Denver Police Department criminalized me.
Really?
So I graduated as a post-traditional student in 2015. I left overseas for a year or two, came back, and rejoined the Occupy Denver Boycott the Urban Camping Ban meals.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the capacity to be a very vocal barker. So normally what you're experiencing here is a protest. What we're missing right now, maybe it's because of COVID, maybe it's because of just the energy of building the relationships that are going on in the homeless community and in the activist communities. It's not as heavy set of a protest.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to change back real soon. It has to. Now that Donald Trump is gone out of office and been elected out of office, what we need to get back to are the basics. The water, the toilets, the fact that we're the richest country in the world, but we're not providing for the simplest and basic of terms. And in many cases, because we're space limited,
Mm-hmm.
right? By our imaginations, by the landlockedness, and by some laws that have been case law that has been established in the state of Colorado. And one of those is a Telluride, is what it's known as, a lawsuit. And some of the basic essence of it is that government can't rent control unless there's legislative methods put into play that can be then challenged in a court of law and established to counteract this other lawsuit. Telluride basically landowners' rights to set and regulate what they charge and whether they have a right to keep their properties vacant versus inhabited at a below market rate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, I was kind of rambling there.
Hey, no, that's great. That's great. Yeah, but like, so how did that lead to you being like, I'm going to use my phone and record all of this and just always be there?
So, we're out here doing the feeds, and we're educating people, and we're protesting. People are getting assaulted. The police arrested people for using drums and noisemakers, for using tables to feed on, right? And they have been assaultive. So in order to catch the stories, in order to follow the pace and to protect ourselves legally, people like Eric Grant started live streaming. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of Eric Grant before?
I've not, no. Or does he have a screen name?
Yeah, the Eric Grant Show.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't.
So Eric Grant is also the Happy Fuck the Cops Day guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you can look him up on the Westward and other stuff. But in order to protect ourselves from the police activity, from the tyranny of aggressive behaviors, we've had to put cameras on. Now, I got arrested for using my voice and saying "fuck the police."
When was that?
October of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you recording at that point, or was that
No.
you weren't, and so they were?
I
Just
was broadcasting
waiting for
as an activist, educating on the mall during the meal. We didn't have to do hand washing station, right?
Uh-huh.
So I would walk and educate and talk, and the tourists. Here's what's going on. Here's why we're here. Here's what's going on. Don't shop at this business who has treated people poorly.
You say with $20 you can get a metal silverware at Costco. So because we run out of the silverware with these people, you know, so you might get some more if you want.
I'll have it for next
want
Sunday.
If you want it,
No,
there's something else, you know.
No. Thank you.
Okay. Oh,
I
thank
will
you.
go buy more silverware.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
how
you.
it has to be.
Thank you, young man.
And we'll
Yes.
keep them washing them.
What business was that? This
So we
one?
used to boycott this.
Yeah.
But I got arrested outside the corner bakery.
Okay.
And we chose the corner bakery because they were selling people food. But if you had too many bags, you couldn't sit down and eat it.
Yep. Sounds about right. And so that's just profiling anybody who's has to carry their livelihood with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So where we're at right now is the 16th Street Mall. This space right here and the bathroom across the street at Skyline Park. We're open 24/7 until it became illegal to be homeless. In educating and broadcasting, the mainstream media doesn't give an unbiased viewpoint.
Oh, sure.
So it became a factor where our cameras were actually, people know me.
Yeah, they do.
They walk up and say hi to me every fucking day. And so that's come to be because we're out here. Because we're giving our faces and our names and a purpose. Right? Cut the Plastic isn't supposed to be about the homeless rights issues. It's supposed to be about environmental sustainability.
Yeah, it is an interesting name for the
We're
content.
switching it soon.
Oh,
Actually.
yeah?
We're working on some new names and some ideas, but I'm going 5014
Oh,
with
really?
my free speech place and space, because this is expensive shit.
Oh, sure.
And so people want to contribute, and they don't care if they give $20 toward environmental conscientious programs or free speech programs, but they have to be differentiated, right? So Cut the Plastic is going into business as a C3, where we're going to be building plastic recycling factories, micro ones, okay, where we're going to use my post-traditional degree. Right? So I came back to Colorado. Why the cameras? Again, I'm trying to answer that.
Yeah, no worries.
I came back to Colorado. I worked on Prop 118. In 2018, 112 is what they became on the ballot, right? And I was hanging out with some people who were doing free speech activism and getting arrested for all their behavior, right? But they were right. So it's the cameras that tell the truth.
Oh, sure.
Okay? It's the cameras that have been expressing the knowledge and the wisdom and the impact to repeat it 100 times and say, look, here, I'm going to show you what's wrong with this picture. I'm going to show you why we must protect public buildings and access to open public spaces with human waste receptacles. Recycling bins, poop dumpsters for the animals, and human waste containers for the humans. Right? I can't just pee on a tree every time I gotta go.
Oh, sure.
Right? But if I don't put a camera on the lack of it and how we educate people about it as being legal and getting arrested and criminalized for it. So 3 times I've been arrested by the city and county of Denver. Okay? 3 times they have chosen to prosecute me to the end of let's take it to the box, to the jury trial,
Mm-hmm.
and they've said no, we can't win.
Mm.
We're moving this on the basis of justice,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're not going to prosecute this case, and that's important because the reason the cameras have to be there is because they keep coming after me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know I'm the most prolific videographer in the city and county of Denver right now, right? And that not everybody agrees with or cares about what the fuck I have to say, but enough people do understand, right? That there has to be a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be all the way to one side or the other. We have to come to consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would say that, yeah, I want to be able to drink some water. So why do I have to go to jail for educating people about it?
Mm. That makes sense.
So,
No.
so this is where the cameras come into play.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I followed Eric Brandt
Mm-hmm.
in his efforts. Now, I want you to know that in the last jury trial in which I was a part of, Eric Brandt was compared to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X for
Both.
his activism. Both
Yeah.
in the same trial.
Damn.
From the bench. Okay? From the judge's,
Yeah.
right, point of view. Well, you're trying to do this and this. This is what they did. They served their time in jail. They faced the consequences of their activities. But again, you only get one side if there's not cameras.
Mm-hmm.
If all you see is the body cameras that are there after the effect, you don't see the crime that's being committed by somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
right? When the district attorney files fraudulent paperwork as an application to apply for them in violation of state law, right? When you hand out information to jurors to educate them about their legal rights, because eventually somebody's going to take the case. It's not supposed to be a crime for me not to have a place to live
Mhm.
when I'm trying to have a place to live,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I fall asleep on the sidewalk and you take me to jail for that, jurors need to be educated,
Mhm.
right? Beforehand, we got to make it common knowledge what a juror's role is in the jury pool so that they want to participate, right? So when we get arrested for doing those things and it takes 5 years, 3 to 5 years to set case law, you have to put cameras on
Mm-hmm.
to educate people about what's really going on as your rights are being stripped away so that you have a reason to stand out and speak up. Now, by the time George Floyd came through, I'd been doing this too long.
Really? How
Right.
long have you been?
18 months before,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
at
Wow.
least, right? Kyle, when did you come into our world roughly?
About a year and a half ago.
So 18 months to 2 years ago is when I started putting my camera on. And so, why did people put their cameras on? Because of what they see. They want to share experience. It builds community. There's all kinds of things going on. We did this for 7 years before we started filming it regularly,
Mm-hmm.
roughly 6.5. What if we had had cameras on it from the beginning?
Less
Less arrests?
arrests.
More-
probably.
more-
more public knowledge of what's going on.
Maybe Prop 300 would have passed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we would have had $1 million to fight their $2 million campaign,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the end of the day, I came back. I ran a statewide ballot issue for paid canvassing. I started from a signature gatherer and left overseeing offices across the state at that campaign, right?
Mm.
We got it on the ballot. I called it a win, and I moved on to the next thing,
Mm.
right? I achieved my goals. And in the meantime, I built relationships that will forever change consumption in the city and county of Denver. I got Civic Center Eats to go 3-stream, recycle, compost, and landfill from landfill only.
Mm.
Okay? So I came back after my global tour, or my overseas, whatever I did, came back, and I wanted to be a part of this community,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm watching and I'm filming just a low-level guy. I'm just the backup camera, because my main man is the one who's been arrested 200 times
Mm.
for his mouth. No violent actions. Nobody's getting abused and assaulted. Right? He's not wearing shoes on the bus because if you get jacked of your Nikes and you need to walk home, you should be able to get on a bus and not be forced to walk 5 miles because you don't own shoes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feed people. We, as a community, feed people who don't have clothes. And there's always clothes for them.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people, I've given my socks off my feet. That guy that just came by gave his shoes. We've gone and bought clothes for people. This guy brings beverage water and hot water because we're building things. So why do we televise it? Because it builds a community. But I just started because I had to cover somebody's ass.
Mm-hmm. That's a good reason to start.
So I didn't go on silent mode. I'm sorry, folks. My phones are making noise.
No worries.
And so that's a long answer.
Yeah.
But the reason that we went on camera was really because they continue to erode away our freedoms unless we stand up and protect them.
And how have you, since you started and since Eric has started, how have you seen things change from both sides, for better or for worse?
For better or for worse? Well, for example, the community has grown back to what Occupy size was in some ways. People can be friendly with one another on the street. They can recognize each other. Denver's a transplant city right now, right? A lot of people have moved here.
Oh, sure.
They're not from here. So they have no interconnectivity.
Yeah, the natives are
The natives,
very particular about.
so the camera brings the community together. Even a council members have said to me, I found out what was going on and came to it because you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Today, somebody said to me, I'm happy. And I said, I don't know what that feels like right now. I'm working on it. But I'm happy because I'm here and I've found some purpose. Because the camera was broadcasting and educating. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But also because I can't win without popular opinion.
Oh, sure.
Right? And popular opinion needs to be that we need to stop killing people on the street. Right? If they're so valuable globally that our dictates are that we fight over whether there's a human right to control your own womb. Then once that body is out of the womb, it must have all levels until death a priority.
Oh, sure.
And that means it must have clean air to breathe. It must have water to drink. Once you produce a living creature in a built society, its waste functions must be compensated for on a social level. And we have to win that opinion.
And have you seen progress towards that or regression from it?
So they spent in 2018-19, the Prop 300 was the most expensive ballot issue in the city's history. Loss. Joe Biden just won the nation because seeing the side of anger and hate on the other side caused Coloradans to vote at the highest rate ever in history. 80.5 plus percent.
It was pretty crazy.
Because it's easy. Because you got an address, they mail you a ballot. That's how I voted.
So are we making steps? Yeah. But they also made rules without going through administrative procedures and processes. Specifically because my camera offended them and caught their bad behavior. Right? Does a woman have to tell a private security guard walking into a public building whose job it is to make sure that they're not carrying nuclear detonators into the building that they need to remove their tampon? And that's why they're walking into the building? No.
Does that happen?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Right now, today, in this day and age, it does happen.
Wow.
Private security guards say, why are you trying to come into this building? Their only job is to check for weapons, right? They're not contracted to tell human beings that you need to go poop on the street. Whatever it is. If I can't tell you, if it's my business, why I'm walking into a building and it's personal and private and not it doesn't need to be public. I don't need women to regress to a point where they have to identify their menstrual cycle in order to have access to a lavatory. Right?
No, sure, yeah. That makes sense.
But it doesn't. Because if it did, there would be public access bathrooms.
Oh, sure. Well, I guess it makes sense to some people, but not a majority of people. Or a majority of people don't know that it's something that doesn't happen, so it's stuck in non-public opinion, so there's naivety, which is a third party.
And that's why the cameras are so important.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Because I reach 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching what gets views and what doesn't for you. And it's interesting. I think one of the most interesting parts of your streams that is archived as well is the commentation from your audience. You have a very interesting audience.
Really?
Yeah. You do. Have you
I pay attention sometimes.
Yeah.
I have to understand that audience started because of Eric Brandt. Because then people who like him or don't like him, but learned about me, right? But definitely started because of Eric Brandt, right? And we can walk into the same building and get different reactions out of the same people because of our approach and delivery. But I'm gonna back the motherfucker up who's the loudest one in the room.
Oh, sure.
And make sure that their free speech is protected. So,
Yeah.
my audience definitely is, they're taught to allow discourse, right? I'm very important about that. My moderators, 99% of them I don't know as human beings, face to face, never met them in real life. But they've been around the channel long enough, they've earned a role, and some of them are right wing.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think it's interesting how you bring there are often arguments about what you're talking about, very, very heated arguments about what you're talking about happening constantly.
In the feed.
In the feed, yeah.
And will people grow because of that?
Hopefully.
I mean, the reality is that I'm creating a world that is Ray Bradbury, any of the futures of dystopian society, where all the information and evidence is eventually collected or thought out, has to start at some point.
Are you finished with your plate?
You're a human being that I love.
Yeah. Call me when you're done. Yes, that's fine. Okay.
Did you just say Ron Jeremy? It's really weird.
It's really weird, but I think it's super interesting because it's very different from a lot of the other communities around streamers that have been following protests or following political issues. I think probably the best example of someone else, OMM, Off Meta Media.
Yeah.
They probably 70% of their audience, because they stream on Facebook, are folks who are against what they're doing, but don't want to have a conversation about it. And I think that's the thing that's they're like hate watching it. And it feels like the people who watch you who might not agree with what you're doing or might not agree with all of what you're doing or anything like that, at least seem to like want to have a conversation about it as opposed to just disregard it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you've cultivated that. And I guess
Thank you.
I was wondering, like what I mean, you said you don't really watch it very
Well,
much,
I mean, it
but-
depends. Like
yeah.
like it's the time, the stress, the life
Mm-hmm.
cycle. If you're working 40, 60, 80 hours a week and streaming, it's different than having a sit down and breaking a law down, or hanging out on a peaceful day when there's not a lot of shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like Kyle, for example, he has an interaction with his audience, but how long you been doing this?
Since 2017.
Longer probably than I. Yeah, I think a year, probably more. But when you're cop watching and you're yelling at cops, you're just like standing there, you're watching it and you're talking to the screen, you're interacting with the community. That's different than like being in protest mode and like journaling it, but also like.
Can't hold a big sign and a phone at the same time, or a bullhorn.
But I'm also making sure that people don't get killed.
It takes
Oh, sure.
one hand at least to hold a
And
bullhorn.
that's different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I might let you go to jail for breaking windows because that's what you want to do, and I'm not going to stop you from doing that.
The effort against the Denver
But I'm not going to let somebody die on my watch.
downtown Denver partnership.
So it's just where your
Downtown Denver
focus is.
partnership,
You
right
got to make
there,
sure
you
you're
know?
focused.
Well, this is my city. I've claimed it,
People
right?
responsible for hundreds of
And
homes.
so if I want to be here and I want to be a leader in this community and I want to
there.
make change,
See that symbol?
then I have to take action, right? And so my action is the camera. The camera's going to tell the truth. I'm not going to break the windows or those things. But I also think that like at some point I need to do more, right?
You're gonna lose.
So I'm running for office.
Really?
We already have homeless people.
Yes.
That's badass. What position? Or what?
Probably just going to go at large councilman. But the next. Damn it.
Hey! Step on.
Give me a little bit. They're going to kill my fucking feed.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah.
Dang
it's
it.
like this. What's up?
I've been muted the whole time. Sorry, folks. I didn't realize the mute button was on.
How do you, like, I guess it's kind of a numbers game economically. How do you make sure the resources are there? How does this group get food? Is it all donations? Is it?
This bag of grapes that I'm munching on
Yeah.
was going to be thrown away by a grocery store because they're ugly food.
So it's just knowing where to go.
It's giving your time, right? So I volunteer at a food bank.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A food bank that couldn't manage, didn't have enough volunteers, the support of man hours. They just told us in the month of September that food bank, which serves 1,600 families a month or meals, whatever. It's more than that. Whatever it is.
It's an important amount of individuals.
It's a huge amount.
Yeah.
The volunteer hours they get are equivalent to 18 full-time employees.
Wow. And they need more.
And there's always a need,
Uh-huh.
right? But there's always surplus.
Mm-hmm.
So grocery stores, restaurants, food banks, caring individuals from around the globe. Janet has a fund that they do, people do. And then these people who come, they all are interconnected in different places, right? So the COVID homeless hotels have excess surplus of food.
Mm-hmm.
So mutual aid makes sure is employees at those locations might say, wow, we've got too much and it's going to get thrown away, so we're going to go give it to somebody, come pick up the food that is going to get thrown in the garbage can next, and we're going to feed.
So it's just connections.
Right,
It's-
right. There's reasons that Walmart has to put it in the dumpster for tax purposes, but once you rescue it 10 seconds after it's been in the can, it's still safe for human consumption.
Oh, sure.
Right? We treat prisoners with worse food than people throw away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I'm getting organic food.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Pesticide-free, GMO-free.
Adios, amigo.
Yes.
Yes.
It's good to meet you.
And it's the same moderation community, right? People are like, not always. There's Republicans that come here and serve the homeless,
Oh, sure.
right? Because it's still the right thing to do, the humane thing to do. I don't know. Maybe it has the fact that I recognize that I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I know that at the end of the day, this is my church. Outdoor, serving, washing hands, feeding people, and doing it in a way that environmentally protects the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because we gonna go get more metal forks and spoons so we don't throw plastic ones away into the landfill after each use.
Mm-hmm. Did you grow up in the church, or is that a new? What's your religious story?
Yeah, I mean, I was baptized Catholic, Methodist, and Seventh-day Adventist throughout my life. But humane values were always there, right?
Uh-huh.
My grandfathers were anti-fascists who fought in World War II. You know, my family was important to them. Humanity was a value that I was taught the earth. I used to go my grandparents used to drive on the side of the road so I could clean up all the garbage as I
I
walked.
read that on your blog. There's some really good stuff on there.
I need to write more.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I think 2 years since the last one.
I'm called out.
I mean, you're still creating.
But I haven't written.
Uh-huh. Those are two different mediums, very different
Totally
mediums.
different time frame too.
Yeah.
Because you could put sources and thought, and it takes sometimes weeks to write a blog.
Mm-hmm. So what are your bit tangential, but what are your what goes through your head? What's your process when talking to? I think the one that really stood out for me was a couple. Man, I mean, my timeline is just so fuzzy just because of
It's
all of
okay.
this. But I feel like it was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. There was it was like the sequel to the like pro cop event where they had the like barrier in the
Yeah.
the theater, and you were talking to John Tegan, and I like what's your process with that? Like how do you go about that?
I'm just there.
Yeah.
Time and opportunity. He was there. 9 News was interviewing, and I was there.
Yeah.
So I listened, right?
Mhm.
And that's the key in like again that the different types of auditors and press and media processes is that not everybody's there to observe.
Mhm.
Some are there to control and dialogue. But if we're going to find a middle ground, we're going to find consensus, then we have to figure out what the other side is willing to give up,
Mhm.
right? And I think that Tegan's words were that people who are incapable of tending to their own needs shouldn't be on the street.
Mhm.
That's a common place where we can start.
Mhm.
And instead of pointing guns at each other, because we were just shooting words before,
Mhm.
and then they started getting violent, right? And we got to get back to not just shooting words, but exchanging them.
Mhm.
Oh no, Brian, we need to concentrate on fight the downtown Denver partnership. It's right there. They're the source of all the problems relating to homelessness
So
in Denver. This notion of compromise has nothing to do.
I'm in the middle of an interview with somebody who's writing about me. So
Oh.
I'm giving my answers that
I
are
see.
my truth.
Well,
You
unfortunately,
can
yes,
absorb them,
unfortunately, yeah.
but I've dedicated this time in
I'm
my
sorry,
appointment calendar to this
I'm
person.
sorry that in 10 years we still haven't figured out the problem is the downtown Denver partnership. It's so obvious.
So I can't get a corporation to become a recycling entity like Walmart has becoming
Mhm.
until they realize that it's more cost effective,
Mhm.
right?
It's
It's
finances.
financed.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to fucking house people.
Mhm.
It's cheaper to build and educate, provide social programming. It's cheaper to be a village
Mhm.
than isolation to towers. You have to provide for everything for yourself,
Mhm.
and you have no resources to draw from.
Mhm.
Right? It's easier to draw and share the mutual benefit. It's how we afford it. I'm not rich,
Oh, sure.
right?
So it's like how do you like what so like back to that kind of yeah, John Tegan is like we need to have this like people who cannot survive for themselves or who cannot sustain themselves should not be on the streets. And so we have this common ground. How do you go about like tackling that common ground? Like do you have any thoughts on that? Like how do you get everyone together to be like, this is the common ground, we're here, we have this. The other stuff doesn't matter right now, we're doing this. How do we do this?
Well, I think it has to become so polarizing that it's painful,
Mhm.
right? So I'll keep videotaping people dying in the street, no matter how much it hurts, right?
Yeah, that was rough. Are you doing okay after that?
Oh, the
Or-
shooting?
Yeah. I think that was the same day.
Yeah, that was the same day. I'm more stressed out about the woman in diapers, in her wheelchair, in a tent, where she's sleeping in her tent, with her wheelchair in her tent, given a death sentence by your life's about to end. You've got 6 months or less left to live. Being harassed with my taxpayer dollars and being moved along instead of having a bed to die in. But that guy that died, the hat maker, Would he have cared
Mm.
about the woman dying in her diapers? I would like to hope so.
Sure.
I would like to hope that at some point there's violence and there's not violence. And we got to find a place where that breaks down.
Hmm.
Normally I help clean this shit up, so.
We
Hey,
can-
Dinos, is that all yours?
This crap is. I don't know what that is. Well, this is yours. You want me to wash it?
No, I get it.
We can go help out.
I'm doing this, but I don't want you to be left alone, no help. Okay. Oh, here she comes back with the wagon, huh? See, because I'm still, this is me,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
This is why it's different, because I've been watching that bowl the whole time we sat here, right? And so I'm watching the far right, the far left, the violent one, the vehicle, the bus that's coming down the road, not slow enough, paying attention to the fact that that person may not move.
Mhm.
And my job on the 16th Street Mall is to sell $50 million a year in joy and peace and calm. And so the buses should make way for the human beings that are on here, because without the humans, there's no bus,
Oh, sure.
right? And so it doesn't matter if I'm feeding the homeless, or if I've got a mass mob of tourists walking back and forth across the walking mall. It's a walking mall.
Hmm.
It's pedestrian friendly.
It's supposed to be
Humans first,
pedestrian friendly. Yeah.
right? So, no, I got only my pan. I don't have. Yeah. So we come to this place where, since I'm standing next to Tegan and I'm listening to him talk, I might as well ask some questions. Once I
Yeah.
figure out in my calculations, I didn't know who he was to begin with. I just saw him being interviewed. Okay, let's figure this out. Figure it out. Okay. I'm catching all the vibes. You're at the head of this, Snake.
Mhm.
So let's get you to talk about de-escalation opportunities.
Mhm.
Where do we meet in the middle? Why the fuck not?
How do you see that going? How do you see de-escalation going? Have you seen effort there, or is it just gonna? You mentioned earlier that it needs to be so polarizing that it's
Well,
awful. Like,
yeah,
Is
it
it-
does.
is it the kind of the accelerationist like come back to it, or is it like too big at small, or do you see us just moving backwards, going back to?
Well, I think that instead of fighting left and right,
Hmm.
right, we can do business as usual. We can do whatever it is that we do, but then, like, we've got to change some, like the bottom keeps getting deeper. Sam, is that Sam's? Let's go check it. See, because even when I'm not in the middle of control of responsible things, I'm still in that role.
Yeah.
It's got some bread.
Yeah.
It's got a jacket. This is one of ours.
Okay.
I think this is Sam's.
Okay.
Where's his bike?
Oh, Sam come with the funky bike with the red up.
No.
The other Outer World is really close to me, so that's the one I go to.
Oh, Inglewood. Yeah.
Yesterday I waited there for like a fucking hour.
Yeah. You gotta have something to do, or like go to Costco, but like get your number and put your phone number in. Go shop at Costco, get your shit, gasoline, whatever.
Come back.
Go get a steak burger from Steak and Shake.
So hard.
Hey, anybody wish you a happy fuck the cops day? All right. Did you bring that box of shit, or do I gotta go pick it up?
No, I swim in Ohio. I now.
All right. Well, I got a tie rod I gotta fix, so we're not trying to drive everywhere until I get my car fixed.
And then I
A tie rod on one end and a fucking CV axle on the other side.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of left and right. I gotta get my car up next weekend.
Oh my god.
Minimal driving for this week.
I was jacked though. Like 15 and just
Good luck on the van.
back and everything. Yeah.
We're gonna carry this conversation on. I don't want to end it.
Bags are great though.
This young person here.
Thank you for your help today.
Yeah, always.
You were a good sausage putter on our plate.
Yeah.
Glad.
So
Yeah, we're part of Mill Team 6U, the sausage putter.
Neil Team 6.
Alex Trebek just died.
Man, we're losing everybody this year.
R.I.P. Alex. Him and Sean Connery are duking it out in heaven.
I'll take.
Fucked up is they both played by the same person on fucking SNL.
Ooh.
I thought Will Ferrell did Trebek.
Actually, I went to.
You did Sean
I
Connery?
thought I went to DSL thing yesterday.
Yeah.
And I went to a DSA thing, a rally. And I was like,
Okay, we out of here.
so like women's marching.
Oh,
You're like, I didn't. You won. Practice is over.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. What do you? Oh.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So we're gonna carry on. This poor guy never got up.
How's parenting?
Yeah. It's been hanging.
Real shit right there.
I was here since 8. Have you been here since then?
A couple down. There's a big bag in the back seat of my car.
Thanks, Shan.
It's full of hats.
Oh, word.
You wanna get it?
Yeah.
Here.
Now people are gonna collectively relax. No, we don't have to pay attention.
No.
That's my
You
fear.
don't think?
I don't know.
I think that's gonna happen.
You're here, right? We're gonna. Okay, so we're gonna keep doing it. One of the things I asked last night, all the cars driving by. So how do you feel? What's next? What are 2 things? Well, what are 3 things that you got to stay working on, right? So it was a big conversation. We're not done. It's a step, right? This is what I'm talking about. It's a step, right? Okay. So we're done hating and yelling and being racist, right? But we still got to recognize that neoliberal fascism exists on both sides. And we've got to get back to the core. So what's the escalation that's going to make that next thing, right? How many people got to die unhoused in the next year? How much are we going to waste on sweeps and homelessness and these various factors to ensure that we
This guy, right?
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you want to give, this is what your money goes toward. You see these hats? These are all machine washed. There's socks in there. There's some long johns. There's scarves. See that?
Beautiful.
This is what Goodwill Outlet World gets you at $1.79 a pound.
Oh, it's 5 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
Blankets are like 50 cents a pound.
well, yeah. So you figure that's probably 20 pounds. So that's 35 bucks there.
Dang.
Yeah.
This is not. I had a
Especially with,
full
like,
cart
gloves and stuff.
yesterday. Well, not a full cart. That cost about $30.
Yeah, but that's like that's just hats, scarves, and
It's
socks.
dense.
Well, 'cause
Yes.
You were here like when it was really cold. I think you're new, but a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was so cold, and so many people wanted gloves. And yeah, that's damn.
Yeah, so the thing that's time consumptive and secretive about these things is that, so when you go to Goodwill now, because of the COVID restrictions, you're only allowed so many people in. So then you gotta either like call in advance and then they call you and you got like 15 minutes to get there, or you lose your spot, or like you gotta sit outside. So what I was doing for the last week of the election or prior to is I'd be sitting on the headset making phone calls, sitting in my car for like 2 hours. And then I'd go into the bins and I'd like hustle through for like 45 minutes to an hour, get, load up, get back in the car and get back on the clock, shortly thereafter, get to the office or something. And so that's how I like waited it out, was like I got paid, 17, 18 bucks an hour making phone calls
You
to.
just start going because every time I go on a Saturday, it's fucking packed and I gotta wait like an hour and a half, an hour.
Yeah,
Let's
midweek
start
is
going
good.
during the week.
1 o'clock,
Yeah.
2 o'clock seems to be a good time at this one, but you can call, depending on whereabouts you live, right?
Yeah.
You can, or just like drive in, get on the list, and go home and wait the 2 hours, or get your shit done. That's what I do. Trying to, because that's why I'm going to this one over here now, is because it's 15 minutes from my house.
Oh, word. Yeah, that's like about the distance the other one is from me, so it's perfect.
Yeah. And that's how we afford things,
Yeah.
right? Collective, mutual aid. Because that's going to be needed tonight and tomorrow.
Oh yeah, and just direct clothes when people can give them. too.
Yeah, I just don't want to, I didn't want to put that out in the uncontrolled shit
Yeah.
show in the morning.
Yeah, I need to do better at watching the socks, especially.
Because one person will take 10 pair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3, I don't mind, but
I know you were. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no.
I know you were going through earlier and saying like get in line because that's a hard thing in the morning. Like I think people are chomping at the bit to like starting to pick stuff off tables.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am the bossy one. So I will say no. You know, and I told the guys like I just want a drink. Great. Get your drink and get the fuck out of here then. I don't want to see you in line because everybody needs a chance.
Yeah.
Right? And if you want to get at the front of the line, then you help unload the vehicles. Right? Service gets you, right?
Service guarantees citizenship.
Huh? And guess what? In the state of Colorado, if you're not a citizen, you can't vote. So you know what the fuck's gonna happen next? You know what's gonna happen next?
Because it was worded so insanely.
Yeah.
Because it affects like 17-year-olds who are like 18. Oh, God,
Yeah.
I read that on the ballot. I was like, how is this legal that they wrote this that way on the ballot?
They did it in a bunch of states like that. I think that's a.
But they wrote it like I literally okay.
Oh yeah, it's a far left wing group.
Right.
Oh, right wing. Yeah. Right wing.
Yeah.
Far right wing group.
Yeah. So far, they're almost coming in. No.
Coming around to the left.
Horseshoe theory. God, no, but that was insane because like I'm an English major and like just reading, I was like, I don't even know how this was legal because like they hire people with my degree to like write shit that's like very convoluted, so people don't know what they're voting for, and I'm like, but they do it so they can get away with it. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck they can get away with this, but clearly they can.
So
Damn, you have to be a lawyer to read that shit.
plastic micro bead legislation to end plastic microbeads actually gives legal authority to pollute the water with plastic microbeads.
Yeah, and same with
So the micro bead legislation is essentially a permission slip to pollute.
That's the same with like the EE proposition. I don't know how the EE amendment, did that go through or no? Raising taxes on nicotine.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fucked because
Girls
they
love syntax.
they wrote it. I don't even know if they mentioned nicotine on the ballot because I remember being so pissed. But they were like, oh, like raise taxes for whatever, prevent teen vaping. It's like, no, this affects poor people who smoke cigarettes as a coping mechanism, and the money goes towards preschools. It's like, no, it goes towards cops. That's why we haven't seen any of the weed money because it's all going towards our prisons, the fucking supermax prisons here, and cops. Like. But they purposely leave out cops because they know people are going to be like, well, no, I don't want to live in a militarized state like New York, but no sir.
One day at a time.
All right.
Yep. All right, you got yours.
Thank you.
We're carrying on here.
Yeah,
All right.
all day.
What was your name?
I'm JT.
JT?
Yeah.
So I gotta tell you, I'm really touched. But JT said I'm writing a paper about you. I wrote a paper.
Yeah, I wrote a couple papers about
Oh,
Brian.
no fucking.
I haven't even asked to read them yet, which I will be. But
Yeah, no, I'll get to
Are
see
you
it.
in college?
Yeah, I'm a CS major at UCD.
Oh, whoa.
Agriculture minor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like writing classes too, so
yeah, so we're diving into what makes Brian think and tick or whatever, answer questions, and
Spend the whole day with Brian.
Oh, that's a long one. We'll be at this till 2.
Right?
So yeah, I want to get some sun though. It's getting a little chilly.
Yeah. See you Friday.
Thank you, Scott.
Have a good one, y'all.
Yep.
Back to the chef's table.
Sure, why not? It's a good location. Did you drop keys? Nobody's dropping keys. Oh, that was funny last night. All the water bottles that were in the street kept popping because cars were running over them.
All right. See you, Joe.
Bye, JT.
Yep.
So how do people get plugged in with all this? Is it just friend of a friend, or?
How'd you get plugged in?
You.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So friend of a friend.
I was at one of the protests like in May, and Brian I don't know. You just told me about it.
I just said, hey, we feed the homeless every Sunday.
Yeah, because it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, come by tomorrow.
Come have breakfast with us.
Oh shit, somebody else is getting interviewed.
Oh yeah, this is the thing they've been doing for weeks. Come out and they actually pay you $20 to speak. Give your thoughts.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they pay you for this.
Just any thoughts or?
Yeah, let's see this.
See you guys.
I guess the spaces have been claimed. You had this one over here, huh?
And do you guys have like what's your like communicative system look like? Is it just chats and stuff, or what's the?
Well, I mean, the group here online chats, right?
Yeah.
And then, but like, I mean, we have a Facebook page, Occupy Denver, and Boycott the Urban Camping Man, that we broadcast this. I'm a word of mouth guy. I tell people I bark on broadcast. But like with the, there's like the Denver protests on Reddit, and there's like things that have popped up over the summer due to all the activities. But I don't really control any of that or have a lot of regulation on what goes on in any of that. Maybe sometimes I feed a little input or retweet. There's some like activism exchanges and things like that where people have the freedom to share events and activities. And I think that's another thing that's a little different about my methodologies, right? I'm not a cop watcher per se, where I go out and harass cops doing their daily jobs. I do, however, if I see something, I say something, so I'll put my camera on it. But I'm not like, I normally don't just drive around at night looking for cops behaving badly, right? I would rather go to a city council meeting and show how the budget, we don't know how much is being budgeted for fences, for homeless sweeps, so that we could demand a cross expense counter to those fences in garbage services to keep our streets clean while we get people into long-term permanent housing situations, right? Because that's what people don't think about as much.
Yeah, you've been streaming some of the city council meetings and stuff like that. How do you? Does Denver? So I'm not from Denver. I'm from northern Colorado. I live in Weld County, and so I'm not super involved in here's politics, the city's politics, and so or the county. Does Denver have a lot of, like, do folks show up for stuff like that, or is it just like go over the public and just passing whatever the fuck?
It seems to me that when I first started going to council and council met in person, that there were always at least a dozen people there, including the press. Show up to council every week, write a story on it. With this absent COVID, Zoom style stuff, it's really hard. Some weeks there's nobody there, and there's some weeks I can't make it. You know, it's a commitment, and this is a bigger commitment than that for me. You know, so it's a balancing act.
Do you see that as an important element of being a citizen of a space, is to go to things like that?
Oh, it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if we had 10% of the citizens of the city and county of Denver that attended a city council meeting in person with their representatives a year, things would be catastrophically different. I don't think we don't have 1% show up right now.
Oh, sure. It's a dozen people, give or take.
Well, but I mean, like, even like, let's say in a given year.
Oh, okay, sure.
Right, in a given year, if 1,000 people went to council, that wouldn't be 1% of our population.
No, it's a pretty big spot.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that I mean, right?
Mhm.
So how do people get involved? It's through the neighborhood associations, the community planning meetings, the the Hancock cabinet in the communities, and the well, now it's all Zooms, but it's going to council, it's going to the public hearings that are written into our city charter
Mhm.
that says that, like, if you're going to pass this, you have to do X, Y, and Z, right? So you can't make it illegal to film the police in the lobby of the police department unless there's a public hearing that says that that is a financially beneficial cause, that there's reasons behind closing the public buildings, taking away the bathrooms, that it's good for our society to do those things,
Mhm.
or that the community doesn't come out and say, no, we don't have a problem with that.
Mhm.
That's why it's important, right? Because they'll put anything through those meetings, like saying that if you sit on a cardboard box, you deserve to go to jail.
Mhm.
And then when you make that law, you have to enforce it, and then people wonder why your police budget is $1.2 billion or whatever, 600 million out of 1.2 billion, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. What one thing that I think is important to recognize in service and doing things like this is like what because so you're a part of this and you do videography and you go to those council meetings and you do these myriad of things. Are there groups that you look to for inspiration that you're not a part of? Are there other like outfits that are doing good that
Oh.
you just don't have the time to be a part of?
Well, yeah, so for sure, like, I promote Denver Homeless Out Loud. I follow Denver Homeless Out Loud on YouTube, on Facebook, I mean, right? So if they pop up at 6 o'clock in the morning and my phone goes off and says there's a sweep, I might whip my clothes on and get out the door in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
If I'm if I'm up to it for the day
Yeah.
or my schedule allows. They're the big one, right? But then you just know that there's other things going on, that you can't be everywhere at once,
Mhm.
right?
No, sure, yeah.
So the same people that are driving the trucks around here and cleaning up the trash on the 16th Street Mall with this business contract, they have like a laundry truck that they run outside of COVID.
Mhm.
I think right now it's at one of the shelters, right? And so that laundry truck is an enterprise. It's a nonprofit style effort of a profit organization. And there's bigger groups out there, right? Like, so like I love Five Gyres and the Plastic Pollution Coalition, and eco environmental groups. You know, like I follow a lot of that, right? Eco Scene, I think it is, Boulder Collective, waste management, recycling, you know, type deals. That's my passion, right?
Yeah,
you
what
know,
was your blog has a position, has a job that you did or do where you would go to, it was like recycling things that weren't regularly recycled. I don't know if I'm remembering that super correctly.
well, so I've written about this a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and again, this is where, like, I'm trying to develop my own income and professionalism as my knowledge base of these things.
Mhm.
So like I have written some blogs about like how to take something apart and recycle it,
Mhm.
because there's precious metals in electronics, as an example, right? There are jobs out there that are deconstructing. Unfortunately, it's not like necessarily financially viable
Oh, sure.
in the United States, because of the level of cost of wages and living to do all these things, right? But I still have a pile of scrap metal in my backyard, right? So if I drive down the road and I see a couple of car rotors, I'm gonna stop and pick them up, because I know that that's cast iron, and that has a $200 a ton value, right? So if I get a couple 100 pounds of it, that's $20, right? And so I'll stack it in my backyard. I find copper wire when I go on a walk, and I pick it up and I strip the plastic off of it and I roll the wire because it's copper, it's precious, right? And also though, because back to the blog, somebody in Chile on a mountaintop lost their village water supply due to mining operations of the copper.
So if you can recycle it, one less mining operation.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it is tough, but you know we've been building a long-term plan on these things, and things like George Floyd or the arrest for saying "fuck the police" happen. But my real goal is to create sustainable infrastructure as a society, right? I want these water fountains out here to be well made and not crappy so that they break and freeze, or that people are motivated to break them because they're not solid, right? But I also want people whose mental condition is not such that they are well enough to recognize that going around and breaking water fountains doesn't benefit us all or themselves or anybody at all because of their schizophrenia or bipolarism, and they're just trying to get some water and they can't figure it out or whatever, you know. I don't want them to be unhoused and in a condition where they trying to find some water and break the water fountain because it's not working, right? So it's a catch-22 kind of thing where you got to fix one.
Chicken and the egg. It's just a circle, cycles.
And so, when do you become afraid of running out of eggs?
10 years ago?
When you have 10 chickens left or when you have 500? Right? So I'm screaming "the sky is falling" as Colorado Public Radio is broadcasting a doubling of the population in the next 30 years in the Denver metro area. A doubling of the population. How much plastic, oil, carbon footprint?
Do you want to sit here? Because you're like...
Oh, hey, I'm fine.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. It's a question, though. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Like, it's what I saw when I changed my life, hopefully for the better, and dropped some of the things that I was doing and came out to do this. I was politically active for the Republican Party and candidates in my own church in Peoria, Illinois, and in my own community, right? I helped the mayor, Republican firefighter, become mayor in my community, right? Help my candidates run for office, and so I was involved in things before Colorado.
Yeah.
Right? I was cleaning trash on the side of the road as a kid. I got in trouble for doing a fundraising for Africa walk without asking first.
In Colorado or somewhere else?
As a child, as like
wow.
7, 8 years old. You know, it was like this crop walk or something, and I started asking people to support me and raise money. I didn't get my parents' permission. And then I ended up doing the thing in secret against their wishes because it was the right thing to do, right?
So where in the world or in the United States or in Denver do you see progress towards sustainable infrastructure? Is there a spot where you're seeing that and like, yes, we just need to do what they're doing?
Fort Collins.
Fort Collins?
Fuck yeah.
What is Fort Collins up to?
Fort Collins, you couldn't go from Curtis to Arapahoe without passing 4 recycling bins on one side of the road. On one side of this block here. And the other side would have at least 4 more. Recycling bins. Trash cans, right? They have public bathrooms that are basically like a brick structure with some stainless steel. It's got locking mechanisms that are electronic so they can be disengaged if you like overdose and pass out. in the bathroom or whatever, but they're in a public space as well, right? So that anybody can just walk up and use a clean bathroom, and they're managed sanitarily, and so that's really nice, right? So in Old Town Fort Collins, in the Walking Mall area, recycling, trash, public bathrooms are readily available. It's not hard. And where I grew up in Wisconsin, all our parks had Peoria, Illinois. I was thinking about this. The Frisbee disc golf course at Laura Bradley Park. Laura Bradley University. There's a park. There's composting toilets, right? They're publicly accessible. No door on the building, on the building, right? So it's just 24/7. If it's winter, it's cold, whatever. But
It's a bathroom.
it's a bathroom.
Yeah.
And in Peoria, I was a board member for a public housing, building that was done up, and low income, all this jazz. So the ratio of population in that community in Peoria, one of the experiences that I had was that they were building low income housing at a ratio equivalent to needs. So if your population grows at 1% a year, and a tenth of that percent is either elderly, turning into old and disabled, or born post-war, physical accidents, mental health issues, you have to have places for them to live. So planning that, right?
Being proactive about it.
Proactive.
Reactive in our situation.
Yeah. So it's a scale factor. I mean, Denver does a lot of things right.
Yeah.
Right?
What does Denver do right?
So we've got the Denver Food Rescue. The food bank of the Rockies isn't perfect, but in an imperfect system, it's a really solid central base, right? Administrative costs and fees, there's a lot of issues that go on. But food rescue and like a hierarchy of food banking allows low-level food banks that don't have a lot of space or opportunity, but mutual aid capacities to get the trickle feed of the food, right? So if the Trader Joe's has a truck, or if a food bank has a truck and they go and they pick up from set places, when there's overflow, those places have methodologies where members of Occupy Denver, for example, or of other mutual aid groups can show up with a truck or a car, and we've had pallets dropped in the back of trucks that went straight to Pine Ridge.
Because it was ugly, or
From
it was
from
old,
Denver, pallet of boxed food, meat, frozen meat, right? All in boxes of it, tarped up, patted down, and driven straight to the reservation.
Wow.
Or traversed throughout the metro area with boxes of fruits and vegetables and canned foods or what ugly foods to distribution points, right? Other pantries, other food banks, other households. People who will just say, I'll can. We got people that come up here from southern Colorado to pick up 120 pounds of frozen meat that they'll can into glass jars so it'll last for 3 months till it's needed, when the meat supply is low and the veggies are high. Whatever. It's just about building the spider web.
And there's part of it, but it's just, there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Always. Right? But that's how socialism, is my understanding of it, grows. Right? And I'm talking about the kind of socialism that the Bible and the Torah tend to promote. The village mindset, the community that says, if I live in an apartment complex and I'm on a floor of 10 people, in 10 apartments, I probably don't have to buy a toilet plunger because one of my neighbors will have one. But isolationism makes people think that everybody needs to have their own toilet plunger.
Yeah.
The guy just walked by with a toilet plunger.
Oh, did he?
That's why I said it.
Gotcha.
Right? He just walked by with a brand new toilet plunger.
Yeah.
Right?
In a world of a billion toilet plungers.
In a world where somebody's still making
toilet plungers. Yeah, our block all kind of shares one lawnmower because we realized that we didn't need every house didn't need a lawnmower, and so we all just kind of our neighbor across the street was like, why don't we just have one lawnmower?
and everybody contribute to gas, and if it needs $100 worth of maintenance, we'll learn how to do that collectively. We can sharpen a blade. I got a grinder. I got some glasses. Oh well, great. We can do this. You know, oh, we need a new blade. It's $30. Great. You know, here's $5 toward the pool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess one more question. I think that something that's always really important to recognize with activists is that it's like, I guess, and I think this was, thank you so much for inviting me to this, by the way, as opposed to doing this over the phone. I think it's much more was gained and much more was
right, because you just got thrown a spoon in your hand and said go to work.
That was awesome. I mean, because I got here and I was like, is that? I thought you guys maybe were setting up over there. And I was like, but that's not Curtis and 16th, and see, that's not it. But then, when it was like 9:20 and I was walking out of a place using the restroom, and I just saw, I was like, oh, this has got to be. And I walked up to someone and was like, is Brian gonna be here? And he's like, yeah, it's gonna be here. And I was like, okay, cool. So the people that are inspiratory, but also like, do you have any literature or like film that you like look to as like, this was something that was very important to my ethics or my beliefs, or I guess past the Bible?
No, that's interesting because that's a good question. So Janet Madsen, I said you have to know Janet. Okay, Janet. She joined Occupy Denver. She was mad that her grandchildren in Parker, Colorado, a very wealthy community, had to pay to get on the school bus to go to school.
Pay for their school, like they'd have like a paid bus pass every time that they got on the bus.
They couldn't get on the school bus. They had to walk because they couldn't afford to pay for it or some shit like that.
Jesus.
Okay. And then they passed this urban camping ban, but even before I think the urban camping ban got passed, one of these restaurants, not Snarf, not Same Cafe, it begins with an S. It's they got one over by Trader Joe's on Colorado and 6th. They got one over here, right across the street from like one of the homeless service shelters. Okay. And they bought this prime piece of real estate land to turn into a breakfast cafe, restaurant type dealio, outside the homeless shelters. And then they complained about the shelters.
Really?
And the homeless that lived in the neighborhoods, right? So Janet went and started hanging out there and was like, you're wrong. These people need a place to live. This is where their services are, right? So everybody needs a place to live. Hierarchy needs food, water, shelter, right? Everybody poops. So why aren't there public toilets where everybody can poop in? It's a question that I like to just ask the world. So somebody will think about it someday, right? Because everybody poops, or you die. It's a disease. You don't poop, you die.
Yeah.
Somebody knows what it is.
Yeah. So Janet's a big inspiration.
Janet's a big inspiration, but like, there's this guy named Fred, and his son Shane. Fred and Shane Bishop, they're pastors. And Fred started street preaching in 1976 in Mardi Gras, sleeping in his car. And Shane is He's got a pretty cool way of preaching as a pastor, creating a church community, and they get it, right? It's not divisive. I got to be honest that this is an area though that like in the last 6 months
Like ruin everything because like there's no way like you're.
I'm without.
Hey, yeah.
Right? I mean, like truly, like I read something that Elizabeth Epps or somebody writes online, or there's a post or a tweet or a thought, and we're getting so sucked into this 30, 60 second, mind span that a good 5-minute read is tough.
Oh, sure.
But the thing that I'm inspired by and that I have some faith in the most, it's this thing you experienced this morning. Right? That you showed up and Janice said, I need somebody to do this, and you were willing to be like, oh, I'm here and somebody needs to eat today. Somebody needs to bring water and soap and towels, and we need to educate the tourists, but the groceries get picked up. Do you know that besides the groceries getting picked up here, or brought to be brought here in the morning before they come here, a truck goes to a senior living complex of fixed income residents.
Oh, really?
In the last 2 years, many of those people have died while we've been feeding them. But the fixed income senior citizens get 400 or 500 pounds of fruits and vegetables a week. Ugly food. Right? From a grocery store, a high-end grocery store. Not a Save-A-Lot.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Not a Dollar General.
Not a Family Dollar food.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking the grapes. Right? And we had 4 varieties of grapes for people to eat this morning. 4 varieties. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It was my mom used to help out with a lady named Karen who would do stuff like this.
Up north?
It was down in Denver. She's located up north, but
Karen. Well, I wonder if Karen's last name was Sidoro.
I'll have to ask. So.
If she was a member of Occupy, because Karen is a very popular woman that we have as well.
Yeah, I'll have to ask. It might be the same Karen.
Might be full circle.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor, and
Nice.
so I think I really get frustrated with how people use the church oftentimes for doing hate, and it's really good to see someone who's like, I'm taking the ethics and the learnings that I took from this, and I am putting it on display, and I'm feeding people. And so,
Yeah.
there's just, I think it was. I'm really glad that again that you invited me, and I think it's really awesome. Again, I mean, you mentioned the educating the tourists, doing it on 16th Street, like where everybody's on display. It isn't like trying to hide the people who need food. It's everybody's a human being, and we're all here together.
So the reason we get to use tables is 2017, 2018 federal lawsuit is filed. It was a Supreme Court hearing case. It was Food Not Bombs versus the city of Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale said you couldn't use tables to feed people.
Really?
And Food Not Bombs said, well, we feed people to teach people that food is better than war, and that we can have community and create change and use the money of warfare to solve the problems that create warfare. Chicken egg.
It's nuts here to have a lawsuit.
So,
use a table.
yeah. So this space that we're sitting on right here, right now, used to be the tables that we'd put the food and the forks and the plates on, right? But what inspires me is that half the people on that food line are new this year, 2020. right? That that the difference in the left and the right isn't that big of a difference. They're all oppressive toward consumption, right? Consume. That's the left, the Democrats, the Republicans. They're both about consumption, right? How we consume might change, right? But humans aren't supposed to be consumed. Our life has to have some value. I would like to think it did. So, Jerry Burton, Therese Howard, Benjamin and Anna from D-Hole, right? They're people who inspire me. They take little to nothing for what they've got, and they make it go a long, long way in their personal lives as well, you know? But Christians are a funny lot. And I know more witches, people who claim to be witches, because they found a spirit that guided them that didn't beat it down their throat. Right? I bet you've got an amazing father.
Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago, but he was a really great guy. He was a pastor at a church called Discovery up in Broomfield, which I think is, I mean, it's probably the most radical church in Broomfield, which isn't saying very much, but the motto is, no matter what you've done or what's been done to you, you're welcome here. And I don't know, I really respect the congregation. I think that it's a really great group of individuals doing a lot of good and kind of fighting the status quo of the very hate-driven Christian kind of suburb vibe. And so it's because I mean I've lived in suburbs my whole life, and so it's what Christianity looks like there has always been so absurd. And it's again, it's nice meeting people who are like, I'm taking this and I'm using it for people. I'm not using it for personal gain or
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we all got to have a little gain.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right?
I mean, you got to be sustainable in your actions. You can't give everything away.
Exactly, right? You've got to be able to pay the bills. So, you know, when YouTube started to offer us money and Eric started making money, all right, I'll try. $20 a month some months.
Really?
Right? I mean, let me tell you, the last few before the killing, $100 a month or so, mostly donors, people that were kicking in value. They're like, here's $5, thank you for what you're doing, here's $10, right? And so then I'd build that super fund. I get a few people who kick here down the chain here or there, whatever, but you know, I don't buy groceries much. I had some grapes today, mostly because I cooked food and I brought food and we shared and swapped, right? And I take some food from this here and I go to the next thing and I get some there. Coffee creamer, it's number one item I buy.
Yeah, big fan of coffee creamer.
Even like honey. Sometimes I buy a big jug of that or whatever, but no, the number one thing that I pay for is gasoline and beer, car insurance, rent, water, and not in that order, right? Because of mutual aid, because of the collective effort, because somebody manufactured it, and the wastes, the damage, the write-offs of the corporate good are just thrown away. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the fields did you see any of that in Florida during early pandemic when they realized that their supply chain was busted? They were just burning fields of produce.
burning it.
Yeah,
Why burn it?
because it was the fastest way to get rid of it.
So why did you get rid of it? Why didn't you turn it back into the soil?
Yeah.
Right? Why didn't you put it back life into life? Right?
Well, because the soil doesn't matter in contemporary agriculture.
You know what I'm gonna go home and do this afternoon?
What?
I got a really nasty compost bin that attracts mice.
Yeah.
I'm tearing that thing down, and all the soil that's in it and all whatever left over is going into my soil.
That's good.
Right? I've put a couple of tarps, 2-3 tarps the other day. A friend showed up, helped me haul some leaves and dig and turn and dig and turn. You know? My soil in my land is important. I need to grow food out of it.
Yeah, but that's not modern, that's not contemporary agriculture.
Right, it's not
Yeah.
contemporary agriculture, and it's not effective agriculture what I grow. It's the only place I find peace in my world. Right?
It's very, very, I grow tea. That's my trade. Or
Nice.
that's what I want to do. I would love to grow tea for a living, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
why
really
not?
grow in Colorado.
Sure,
And
why not?
so- Well, I don't have enough plants to make it sustainable yet. And
Okay.
So, but I'm working on it. But
Uh-huh.
no, I think I study agriculture, and I think it's super interesting that half of my classes are just about how to be the most effective and just not care about the earth and just grow as many plants as possible and have the highest return. And then my other classes are
Excuse
all
me.
like,
Did anybody wish you happy fuck the cops day yet today? Sorry, I had to. I was listening, but
no, yeah.
consumption. Yeah, it's
yeah.
all about consumption. You're not taking water classes. If you're taking agriculture without water courses, you're missing the boat. So I don't know if there's a way to, but I do know. The water, it's not the water, it's One World, One Water. It's on campus. And they have some cross-campus courses.
Yeah, no, I could take something at Metro.
And incorporate that into your agriculture degree, sub something out or whatever. It's huge, because water is the one place where they teach you to conserve.
Well, yeah, that's the other half of my classes are the teachers being like, those other classes are bullshit. This is how we should be doing it, and it's just so funny to see the dichotomy inside a single educational like bubble. And yeah, I guess it's really frustrating that we've decided that that's how we're going to do agriculture. Is like the soil doesn't matter, the nutritional value of the plant doesn't matter. It is just how many of them can we have? What is the rate at which we can produce it? Which is important for feeding a population, but at the same time, it's like there isn't any balance anymore. And then when a supply chain breaks, and it's like, well, we have all of this food, but it doesn't work in our supply chain that we've created, we're just going to get rid of it because we don't have these plan Bs. We don't have methods to help individuals who wouldn't have been able to purchase it in the first place. And so, yeah, I really enjoy agriculture, but it's so frustrating at the same time just because of how it's treated oftentimes. And it's also just I think one of the reasons I really like tea is because coffee is so bad for the environment because we can't grow it here. You can't grow coffee in America, and so it all has to be shipped, and it's being shipped from places that are very exploitive. And we can grow tea in America. You can't grow tea in Colorado. But you
Probably
can,
could
well,
if you
yeah, I've got a
built a
small
greenhouse.
I've got a high tunnel in my backyard, a very, very small one. But and I think that it's like, yeah, sure, we have caffeine, but it's just I could not grow coffee in Colorado without a crazy amount of industrial work, and so
Right.
I think it's important. I think agriculture is so important, but it's at the same time it's just one of those. I mean, same thing with tech, like computer science. It's the evils of tech industry are so on display right now, and but at the same time it does so much good and can do so much good if you're willing to look at it from that perspective. And so it's just this balance of it's like how environmental law individuals get hired and gobbled up by oil companies because it just pays better. There is no six-figure gig doing environmentalism as a lawyer.
Right.
But there's a high six-figure gig doing environmental law for
an oil company.
fracking. Yeah.
That's right.
So it's just knowing the balance of it.
Yeah, securing water rights for farmers is less financially productive than securing water rights for fracking.
Really?
Well, think
That
about
makes
the.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, water law is profitable no matter what, but yeah, industry pays because they got the bigger dollar,
Yeah.
right? So the farmer, every dollar he spends on a lawyer, he's not spending on his water. And I can guarantee you that in 2020 there were senior water rights that didn't get answered, calls that didn't get made, and downstream consumers, they don't get it, right? This is what it's like. It's like when I live in a house, I want my roommates to understand that if we wash one dish, we can use as much water as washing a sink full of dishes. If we wash that one dish with a full water flow going and we're rinsing it and we're not saving the water or nothing for continuous use, then all we're doing is feeding it from the mountain through a purification system as a first or second consumer, depending on where the water was, because oftentimes in the mountains, they're allowed, even though it's a Denver water right, they're allowed first right of consumption because they're upstream users and they're putting it back into the stream for the second consumer, which is the first water right holder, the city and county of Denver. And even sometimes we're the first or the first, but we're the third or fourth consumer if, say, Thornton or Fort Collins consumed it, and then it came down to us to go from there, right? So it just depends on it's a complicated process. But the environmental impact of flowing the water, of taking a tub versus a shower, right? The tub uses 3 times as much water as a 5-minute shower. And so those are the things that, like the big picture of consumption. And I don't know why I went back to that tangent.
No, I mean it's important. It makes sense in context.
In context, it all ties together.
Yeah.
And so when you're in mass consumerism, yeah, you lose some consumption for production value, right? But if there's still not a nutritional content, it's wasted energy consumption. So whether it's the vampire electricity being used by clocks that we don't look at, or things that are plugged in but not turned on, that carbon emission, the energy output to that, it culminates at a environmental impact, right? In the same way that moving people from block to block, or having a mentality that I don't live in this city, so I'm less culpable, accountable to my neighbors, because they're not my neighbors, right? Our church teaches us that everybody's a neighbor.
What's the verse? Oh man, I can never remember it. It's
Thy neighbor as thyself?
No, how your neighbor are the people of your country, the people of your neighboring country, and the people of the world. And it's the neighboring country that is mentioned was historically at war with the country that the original verse was coming from, and so it's not just neighboring countries that you like, it's neighboring countries that you don't like, and that's a very important element of the verse, because it's not just your neighbor isn't people you get along with, it's everyone.
It's everyone. That's right. That's right. And so, in Biden's acceptance speech last night, he's like, we're not red states and blue states, we're the United States. And we need to get back to that, right? But here's the secret. We're not going to get there until the region gets there, is like in communities, right? So you asked me, like, what do I look at as like systems that work earlier? What inspires me? What do I look at as examples? So the Denver Food Bank of the Rockies, I should say, Peoria Rescue Mission, the food rescue there was a hub, and it was regional. Okay, so until we have regional housing solutions, right? You see, eventually, Denver's gonna have to buy land in Aurora and build a hotel in Aurora to solve homelessness, and there's gonna have to be a land development in Thornton, in Inglewood, in Lakewood, right? Everybody has to come together and invest and fund and create solutions so that the answer isn't in Five Points or in Rhino or outside, not Wrigleyville, but Market Street and Park Avenue and all the bar zone where the shelters and services are, right? Because those shelters and services are the shelter and services for Brighton. They're the shelter and services for North Glen and for Commerce City. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, no, it's all connected. It isn't. You can't just isolate yourself even in an area. It's
right. They come and clean that regularly, and so if I'm building a platform, if the people that listen or watch or follow argue on the live stream, hopefully there's some change happening, right? There's discourse, there's education. Hopefully that's what makes me different. Because I have a feeling you'll come back down here and hang out on a Sunday.
Yeah, no, I was planning on coming back next Sunday.
It's that powerful.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what happens. It's contagious. So
people just have to know about it.
Have to know. And that's why
the camera, and it all comes full circle. It's
all
perfect.
comes full circle.
Exactly.
Right? You picked up recycling. I picked up trash and made sure that the stuff didn't just blow around and lay around. You know?
Thank you.
This guy says occupy something, but I can't see what it says from here. Occupy Mars?
Mars.
Yo, occupy. Hey, occupy. He's not listening. ¿Se habla inglés? He doesn't get it. See, I was trying to holler at him.
Oh, so you could show him yours.
My Occupy hoodie.
Yeah.
You like?
That's badass.
He's got Occupy Mars. All right, I gotta get that trash out that I dropped because it's really conscientious of me.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that's. Oh yeah, that'll help. That'll help a lot.
Every little bit. And now you got it on a stream because there's still 30 people sitting in here.
Yeah, folks are watching that.
Listen to our chat. Yeah, I'm looking for my oh.
Howdy. What's up?
Hey, Occupy Mars. I'm with Occupy Denver. I like your hoodie.
Cool.
Now, can you tell me where the garbage can is? Is there? Where? Right. There used to be one right here at the bus stop. And at that garbage can, there's no recycling bin.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring this home.
Yeah, I'm not carrying somebody else's coffee cup all day.
Yeah. There's junk happening tonight too.
Huh? We'll find out when we get there. That's my answer. We'll find out when we get there. Somebody's going out of business. Who's going out of business?
Oh, with like a massage?
Mark Style. Ah. All right. Yeah, not my cup of tea. I'm on this side. Take it easy. Have a great day. Thank you for your time. Hey, I can't wait to read something you wrote. All right. And that, folks, for those of you who sat through it, was an interview by JD And so JD was and I were chatting for a bit there, and it's good. Glad you're here. Oh, D, hip hop D, as in dog. Thanks. Yeah. Make love, sovereign citizen. Spot check news. Reoccupy Mars is more correct. And so JD had an interesting point for those of you who are in here, and said I have a very unique moderation, different platform, a different audience than some of the others. Found it interesting and unique. Just myself. Anyway, folks, I'm gonna go dig dirt and soil at my house today. I don't give a fuck about the rest of you. Enjoy your day. My earth needs to be prepped for winterizing. And for garlic, we're gonna put some garlic in the ground today. Carrots, beets, gotta get that stuff growing over winter, and it'll pop up in the spring. Good stuff. Thanks for hanging out from the 16th Street Mall. Don't forget to support Janet's Kitchen. I don't have a tiller. Ginger, yeah, I don't know about growing any ginger. If anybody's got a tiller, they can come to my house and do that. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna go home and work. We'll talk to y'all later.